Well, it's time. About 2 weeks ago, I posted a video telling Christians that we should all be excited about 2025. None of the predictions the new atheists made 2 decades ago came true, and people are noticing. Young people in Great Britain are abandoning atheism. All of the main arguments of the Dawa guys have come crashing to the ground. We can't even get them to debate because they have nothing to say. The avalanche of apostasy is accelerating, and Christianity, which had been on the decline for many years in the U.S., has been increasing for the past few years. Seems like a good time to make some big moves, and big moves we shall make. We have multiple projects this year. Two of the biggest projects I would consider roughly equal in importance. I had to pick one to get started, so we're launching the Islamic Dilemma project. What is the Islamic Dilemma? It's an argument that a handful of us have been using for a long time. The argument can be formulated in different ways. The simple version I usually use goes like this. The Quran affirms the inspiration, preservation, and authority of the Jewish and Christian scriptures, and yet the Quran contradicts the Jewish and Christian scriptures on basic doctrines. Where does that leave us? Well, there are only two possibilities. Either Christians and Jews have the inspired, preserved, authoritative Word of God, or we don't. It's one or the other. On the one hand, if we have the inspired, preserved, authoritative Word of God, Islam is false, because Islam contradicts what we have on basic doctrines. On the other hand, if we don't have the inspired, preserved, authoritative Word of God, Islam is false, because Islam affirms the inspiration, the preservation, and the authority of our scriptures. So, if we have the Word of God, Islam is false. If we don't have the Word of God, Islam is false. Either way, Islam is false, therefore Islam is false. You can go back probably 15 years or more and find presentations where I was saying that if I could only change one thing in the world of apologetics, it would be getting Christians and eventually Muslims to understand what the Quran says about the Bible. Because Christians don't know and Muslims don't know. If Christians knew and Muslims knew, it would change everything. Every discussion between Christians and Muslims would go very differently if the Christian and the Muslim were aware of the fact that the Muslim's book affirms the Christian's book as the inspired, preserved, authoritative Word of God. There is a world of difference between the way discussions between Christians and Muslims go now and how they would go if Christians and Muslims were aware of the important fact that the Quran affirms the Bible. Over the past 2 years, more and more Christians have been catching on and using this argument, but they've been using a simplified version of the Islamic Dilemma with only a couple of Quran verses, and Muslims have been developing some smokescreens to dodge the issue. But here's the thing. The Islamic Dilemma is far more powerful and far more airtight than Christians or Muslims realize. It's as airtight as arguments about Islam get. If Christians learn the argument in all its glory, Dawah is done, it's cooked, stick a fork in it. Wouldn't 2025 be the perfect year for Christians to really learn this argument? Of course it would, and that's exactly what we're going to do. So, we've got a big project lined up. I've got a private community where we can develop the argument without any distractions. Anyone who wants to join the project is welcome to join. Here's the plan. Over a period of several months, not sure how long it's going to take yet, but over a period of several months, a bunch of us are going to read through the entire Quran, chapter by chapter, and we're going to find every verse in the Quran that says anything about the previous scriptures. So I'll say something like, this week we're going through Surah 2. That's the longest chapter in the Quran. We'll all independently read Surah 2, jotting down every verse that refers to the previous scriptures, and then we'll compare lists. It's a little trickier than you might think because the Quran isn't terribly clear. But we'll compare lists, and then those of us who make content will figure out who's going to make videos about which verses. We'll keep doing that until we finish going through the entire Quran, And when we're done, we'll put all of our videos together into one long playlist that will cover everything the Quran says about the Bible and all possible objections to the Islamic dilemma. Then we'll make a nice study guide and focus on popularizing the Islamic dilemma, and we'll challenge our Muslim friends to respond. Then we'll expose their responses because there is no legitimate response. We're about to get started. We'll have a bunch of people involved: Jai and DOC, GodLogic, Chris from Speaker's Corner, Cameron Bertuzzi, and others. You don't need to join the group that's working on this project if you just want to learn the argument. We'll be posting public videos as we go through the Quran. So everything will be made available to you. You can just wait until we start posting videos and we'll provide everything you need. But if you want to join the project and go through the Quran with us, you're welcome to do so. There are a few reasons you might want to join us. One, if you've been wanting to read the entire Quran, but you never have, and you want to do it as part of a group of Christians, this is your chance. It will be painful. This is a hard book to read, but it might be easier as part of a group. Two, if you want to tell your grandkids that you were part of the group that formalized and systematized and popularized the Islamic dilemma, you can be part of the group. Three, if you want to make sure that you've actually read everything the Quran says about this topic in context, you can do that with us. You could do it on your own, but you can also do it as part of the group. Reading the entire Quran and finding all of these verses does have an advantage. It allows you to pull rank in a discussion with a Muslim, because you can say, yes, the Quran does affirm the Bible. I know because I've read the entire Quran and gone through every single verse that talks about the previous scriptures. Have you done that? And he hasn't. He hasn't. So you can say, since you never heard these verses in your mosque, let's go through them. Fun times. Now, this is a private community. It's the Acts 17 community. For a while, I've mainly been using it to notify people through the app about what I'm posting, but I knew we'd be using it for some big projects, and so it begins. The site is behind a paywall. It's not expensive. It's mainly because most people who might want to be a disruption would not want to contribute financially to the work of Christians who are developing arguments against the Quran. So the paywall keeps out some distractions so we can focus on what we're doing without getting derailed by haters. The link to join is in the description box. If you're joining the group for this project, we'll be starting soon. We just set up a tab for the Islamic Dilemma. I've been told it will take the app a few days to update. But as soon as the app updates, I'll post a few optional assignments to get warmed up on this topic, a couple of videos and a chapter of a book. And once we're warmed up, we start cooking.